Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to session 2 of our Mid-England Multi-District Pets. The numbers are building up, and I see we're at 150 just about already. So that means you all found the link to come back again. So thank you very much indeed. I'm told by the facilitators that the breakout before lunch was highly participative, etc. So thank you for that. And a couple of brief reminders before we go into the next ones. Remember, when you go into breakout rooms, you're likely to be with different people because we're trying to do it as randomly as possible. And secondly, that we will have guest speakers again later on. And if you have any questions, then please submit them via questions, aka Chris Davies, and she'll manage them in the same way she did for Nikki, as you saw demonstrated this morning. So 3 parts to this afternoon. We've got the first breakout in a few moments. Come back from that, we'll have a 10-minute break before we have our guest speaker, Tom Gump. And Tom's from District 5950 in the US. Haven't worked out what time it is over there for him at the moment, but I know he's getting up extra early to be with us. And then we've got a final session, breakout session before we close for the day. So we're ready now to head off into the first breakout. And the topic of this one is running the club. Now, we might have done this for some time, some of us, but it's all worthwhile looking back and thinking about some of the extra features that might be required in a hybrid situation, for example, in running the club. So over to Technical Director once again, if they can press the magic button, and we'll see you all in your breakouts very shortly. So back up to 172, so that's very good. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you found that session useful. We're going to take a 10-minute break now, and you'll see the countdown timer come on in a moment. And when we return, we've got our guest speaker, Tom Gump. So be back promptly, please, as soon as the countdown's finished. Thanks very much. See you in 10. Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. And we're still at over 170 in the room, which is brilliant. So we haven't lost anybody there. So welcome back, as I say, and it's a change of focus now as we have a guest speaker who's going to be with us for the next 45 minutes. I'm not sure whether it's a measure of dedication or a measure of some competition here, but at a multi-district pets a couple of weeks ago, we had Gordon McAnally online at 4 in the morning. Tom Gump, our speaker who's about to join us here, was online with Sri Lanka and the Maldives at 3 a.m. his time this morning. So I think that's a dedication to the utmost. Well done, Tom. But I have to tell you that he's at the moment in Atlanta. And he's there, and it's around about 9:30, 20 to 10, something like that over there, I think, in the morning. But Tom is a past district governor, of course, and of District 5950, I think it is, in Minneapolis, and a passionate Rotarian, truly passionate about growing club membership. And so Tom's joined us this afternoon for the next 45 minutes, and he will be taking questions, which I'd ask you to send to questions, aka Chris Davies, in the same manner as I said before. So Tom, welcome to this Mid-England Multi-District Pets, and over to you. Thank you very much.
Well, Dennis, thank you so much for that kind introduction. And I'm just so happy to be in England with you virtually. And this is one of my favorite places to go. And my friends who have seen me on the screen, they know that I don't say that everywhere, but you have always been so kind to me. You know, the last time I was speaking here, Phil Dwyer kindly told me later about that my analogy about the garage, which in the US is park where you park your car near your home, attached to your home. He said, Tom, that's where we get petrol. It's not. So I will do my best to keep my jokes to a minimum so that I can communicate effectively. But wow, I cannot believe we're here at Middle England Pets. I mean, it's just wonderful that in 97 days from today, you will be standing in front of your clubs as president, one in honor. And congratulations. Let's give the PEs a round of applause. You have been through a lot. You've been chosen to lead your districts. And we all know that Rotary actually happens at the club level. That's where the rubber meets the road. So I've been asked to talk about membership, but I know when you're at PETS, there's so many things that you're told to do, to raise money for the foundation, to get your goals set, to do all these things. I was at another PETS a few weeks ago, and the head of education there was telling the president-elects that, it might be better just to pick 1 to 3 goals, because if you accomplish those goals, you're going to be happy that you accomplished those goals. But if you set a dozen goals and you don't accomplish them, you might not be happy about it. So I'd like to suggest to you that membership should be one of your top 3 goals. The reason is because if you have good membership, the other things happen. When I was president of my club, we brought in 31 members into our club that year. Every week or so, we'd have a new smiling face. And when you're sitting at that podium, seeing those smiling faces and the new faces, friends that you brought into your club, you're going to have much more fun. But the other thing that happened during that year is we raised more money than we ever did before. We had more Paul Harris Fellows. We did more service projects locally and internationally. You get it. I mean, when you have more people, you have more hands and more resources to get things done. So I was asked to speak about a particular area of membership. So there's only 3 ways really to grow Rotary if you think about it. You could bring in members into your club, and I know as presidents next year, you're going to do that. You could also engage your members, which is so important. The number 1 reason in the last Rotary survey that was given why people leave Rotary is because they don't feel comfortable with their environment. So we need to assess the situation, and we need to take surveys and figure out what they like. And I just got a note that we're among friends today. That's why I like being in England. I know that even if I mess up, I'll get by with a little help with my friends. So thank you for all the kind messages that are coming in. So the last way to start clubs is to start clubs. That's the 3rd way to grow Rotary. So bring them into your current club, engage them while they're there, start new clubs. Now I know what you're going to say when we say start new clubs. You're going to say, Tom, I'm a president. I have to do this, 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 and this. I don't have time to start new clubs. Well, you know what? You don't have to, and I'll give you that one. But what I'd ask for you to do is, can you think of areas around where you are in England that might need a club to start? And then tell your wonderful district governor-elect, who's going to be your governor in 97 days, where she or he can start a club. Because our Rotary International president-elect, Jennifer Jones, asked them to start 2 new clubs. Every district governor next year has to start 2 new clubs. So we can use your help with that. So the other objection I get, usually from president-elects, is, Tom, if I start a new club, that's actually going to take away members from my current club. And I heard this so often that I actually went to Brian King, who's the RI staffer, who's the head of membership development. And I said, Brian, this question is killing me, because I've started some clubs. And when I start the clubs, I know that they're new to Rotary, most of them, but I need a statistic. So RI went back the last 5 years and they studied the new clubs that started. You know what they found out? They found out that 88% of charter members to new clubs are new to Rotary. So you got to think about the other 12%. Some of those may have been leaving Rotary if we didn't start that. You know what? I'm not going to say anything today that I can't back up with a real life example, and hopefully a fun example that translates well. So for this particular point, we started the first ever Rotary Club to end human trafficking in our district. Now, I wish I could say I was some kind of visionary founder and I thought of this club. It didn't really happen that way. What really happened was we had 3 districts, my district, the one to the north, and the one to the east, that had a consortium, a triumvirate, working on this issue. And it went well, I was thinking, for several years. We had big summits and things like that. Well, the leaders of that came to me and said, Tom, we're going to quit Rotary. Like, what? You can't quit Rotary. Why would you want to quit Rotary? I'd say, Tom, you don't understand. We might get one speaker a year that speaks to our cause, ending human trafficking. And if we want to do a district or global grant, we can't do it because we'd have to get a club to do it. And they all have their project with fresh water and literacy, all good causes, but it's not our cause. So we're going to talk about why it's so important to start new clubs. One other example about the mostly new to Rotary, we filed some paperwork to start the first Pride Club in Minnesota. That paperwork was approved the night before last. And we have 34 charter members of that club. 30 are new to Rotary. 2 had left Rotary because they didn't feel comfortable at their club, and they came back. And 2 were the spark plugs that got it going. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I just want to present to you the reason why. It's funny because in England, you have 4 of the 6 areas that have pets are all run by these individuals that are running your pets today. So let's give them a round of applause because they have been working hard for the last 2 months doing many pets, not just this one. I think besides RI President-elect Jennifer Jones and Gordon McAnally, who's our RI President nominee, they've gone to more pets than anybody. So we're very lucky to have them here. But of course, now that I said that, you're all going to hit them up for AV services, and that'll make them even more busy. So 5 quick benefits of forming new clubs. I'm just going to go through these, and then after this, I'm going to tell you a real life example so you can actually believe it. So starting new clubs grows Rotary more quickly. And that's why I love being in England, because you guys really care about this. From Martin Sully, Steve Martin, and Leslie Sully, your RCs, your Rotary coordinators. I get calls every once in a while from Rotary coordinators around the world, but I get a lot of feedback from your Rotary coordinators here. And I can tell you, your Rotary coordinators care. And I bring that up because if you want to start a new club, or if you want to today just take these ideas and reimagine your current club and use them that way as a president next year, I just want you to know there's people that can help you in England. Those 2 coordinators, plus they have assistant Rotary coordinators. There's a regional membership officer for your area of the world. And there's all kinds of help. And feel free to reach out for me as a resource too. New clubs grow Rotary more quickly. They also retain members longer. They attract younger and more diverse members and more female members. We always get to ask the question, how do I get more members? How do I get more female members? How do I get younger members? We're going to answer all that today, and we're going to prove it with real life experience. Rotary also reaches out into the community so people can see us more, and we bring in more new people to Rotary. And it increases our opportunity to partnership. And it's not hard, and we're going to show you that. So, grows Rotary more quickly. We recently started the Rotary Club of Network for Empowering Women. We added 50 members, just under 50 members at one time. For each of us to bring in 50 members into our club while we're president, it would be hard. It takes a lot of time. But if you start a new club, you have to start them in groups of 20, so you add it quickly. And the other thing is, instead of having to go about changing your culture in your club to making it more attractive, if you add a new club, then you could just accept that culture the way it is. So just something to think about. New clubs also retain members longer. This is a picture of the first ever Rotary Club to serve veterans in the world. Usually in our traditional clubs, people go to meetings either Monday through Friday, somewhere in there. They usually don't do the weekends, and they usually go for a breakfast or lunch. And why do they come? Because they either work in the area or live in the area. But when you study these new clubs, they have a lot of flexibility. Most of them actually meet on a Wednesday or Thursday night, or they meet on a weekend. In your area of the world, you have Maidenhand Bridge, which is a group of wonderful Rotarians who meet at a coffee shop. And that's a non-traditional place because most places, that we meet are a country club or a hotel. But these new clubs are going to places of worship and using those as facilities because they don't have to pay for the fixed cost meal, things like that. But Maidenhand Bridge, they meet at a coffee shop, first and third Sunday of the month. They bring their partners with them and they bring their children with them. The adults play bridge and have coffee, and the kids play together. So just think of these ideas, and you could do it with your current club. We actually add diversity. Um, you know, when I joined Rotary, I was told to do service in the community, and that's what I do. And I love my traditional club. I would never leave it because I have my lifelong friends there. And if we can keep our Rotarians for 3 years or more, they stay. And these new clubs, especially if they're cause-based clubs, they are a magnet that brings these people together. You know, if we were in England, we wanted to start a nonprofit, there's all kinds of things you'd have to do. You'd have to find members, you'd have to file paperwork, you'd have to try to get tax exempt status, you'd have to find the project, you'd have to do the project, report back to the project. With Rotary, you can take whatever cause you want, and Rotary could be the magnet to bring all these people who want to serve together, whether it be for the environment or for whatever. You know, we have a 117-year reputation in Rotary. We have a wonderful foundation that has got a 5-star Charity Navigator rating. You could use all that to do whatever you want to do, and you can use it to bring in more people. So in my club, what do we do to serve my traditional club? We make sandwiches for the hungry. We rake leaves for people who can't rake their own leaves. We pick up trash along the highway. Well, that's great for my club, and I love it. I get pride in doing a job, having it well done, and doing it with my friends. But if I go to a millennial and I say, come join my club, we pick up trash, it just doesn't go over as well. They want to have a lot of focus and have really great impact. But like the end human trafficking, they want to have it in one area, not in a bunch of different areas. They want to serve the environment, just do that. So these new clubs could do that. So this is my case for diversity, and I know it because it worked. During my year as district governor, we went from 30% female to 32%, more than 32%. Now, we have been trying to do that for years, but we never did it. Why did we do it in my year? We stepped back and looked at our clubs that had the most female members, and you know what we found out? Our Eco Club had over 50% females. Our End Human Trafficking Club had 61% females, and the Network for Empowering Women that I talked about, almost 70% females. Those 3 clubs in and of themselves almost moved us by themselves from 30% to 32%. RI President-elect Jennifer Jones wants us to all get to 30% by the end of her year, and eventually 50%. But these new clubs, they just start that way. You know, Rotaract is over 50% females now. And it's great because in Rotaract, they don't talk about the female Rotarian, you know, because they're the female Rotaractor, because they're all, you know, they already have that gender parity, and that's what we're striving for. And to get there, these new clubs can get us there quicker. Our End Human Trafficking Club, it really does reach out in the community, and it brings in more people. You know, it's funny because 2 weeks after we started this club, I was inducting a new member for the club, and the woman was from Turkey, and I was all excited because we didn't have a member from Turkey, a new country to this club. Well, after the induction, I received an email from the then sitting Rotary International president, Mark Maloney, and he typed up this email, and he confided in me, which now I'm going public with. He let me know that that was his sister we just inducted. And he had been trying to get her into Rotary for 40 years, 40 years. Why didn't she join? Because we just didn't have a cause that suited her needs. And she taught English history in Turkey, so she couldn't go during the day. She had to go at night. And this club was an E-club, is an E-club, so they meet. So that's just one example. We can meet these potential people of action where they are. We can give them what they need in terms of grants and things like that. And they can have a club experience that they want, that meets when they want on their schedules. There's also increased partnership opportunities. You know, this is another example how it's not hard to start a club. You know, we started this environmental E-club. It was the first environmental E-club for Rotaractors, because these new clubs, it's not only Rotary clubs, it's also Rotaract clubs. So the last couple examples I'm going to give here are Rotaract clubs. So we wanted to have young professionals working in the environment. So what did we do? It was pretty easy. We called up SRAG. That's a Rotary Action Group for Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. And action groups kind of like fellowships. What they do, they're there to advise on how to do projects, how to fund projects. So we called them, we just asked them, do you have any young people who actually want to do projects in addition to being part of your action group, and just advise? And there were a group of 120 young people. We called them and we found 30 or so that actually want to get their hands dirty and actually do projects, not just sit there and advise. So we had a club started. And now these people, they don't meet like my club, right? My club meets in person on Tuesday mornings at a country club. The bacon's good. We like it. And it's great for us. But some of these young people don't want to take off time work. Some people have young children that they want to take, at least in the US, we take them to the school bus stop in the morning. But they meet online. There's about 20 different countries represented, and they don't communicate like my club does. My club communicates primarily via email. We've done a survey. That's how they want to meet. This group uses WhatsApp to communicate. We also started a Rotaract club, and Lloyd Campbell, who's on here, he was the primary driver behind that initiative. And we partnered up with another organization that serves that community, and we started a club. And every time you start a club, whether you do it this year as a year in president, or when you're looking for something to do next year after you served your year as president, you leave your mark when you do this, when you start a club. When I go to the Veterans Club, they call me dad. At first I was offended because I thought I was too young to be a dad of adult people. But I take it as a compliment now. So it's just one of the benefits of starting a club. So when you start a club, there's 3 types of clubs you can start. There's a Rotary Club that takes 20 members to start. A Rotaract Club, which is a recommended 12. You can start with a few less, but they recommend 12. And a Satellite Club. Now, I think the Satellite Club will be of most interest to you as president-elects. And the reason I say that is it's called a Satellite Club, but it's not really a club. It's a part of your club that meets at a separate time in a separate place. What we mostly see around the world is we see a lot of young professionals who join a traditional club, but then they don't want to leave work during the day. They'd rather meet at a pub at night. And unfortunately, our pubs over here, we can't have dogs in them. I wish it was like over there where we could actually bring our dogs into the pubs. I love that. But they don't want to meet in a regular club environment. They want to meet on their own. So if you have 8 people, you can have that group of 8 from your club. They still count as your club members. They still help with service projects, still help with your fundraising, but they have their meetings on their own. It's kind of like an e-club. There's not really an e-club. An e-club is a delivery format, the way RI handles that. So after you figure out what kind of club, you can figure out your club model. And I'm excited to share this with you, not just because I'm forcing new clubs on you, but I think you can use some of these to actually invigorate your current club. Use cause-based clubs for an example. Now, there was a club in Houston, Texas. It's not where I lived, but they were having trouble with the Toastmasters Club, and they had lost all their members. They were down to 0 members. They were going to turn in their charter, and they asked for my help. And I said, why don't you take some veterans club, some veterans members in your community? Doesn't have to be current Rotarians, just, you could be people in the community who aren't Rotarians yet, because we don't want to steal members from our current clubs. Well, they put those veterans into a club, made it a veterans club, and now it's thriving. They have 75 people approximately. They have their own Interact club. So you can do this with your club. If you have a feeling that you need some more energy, you could pick a cause. Whether, let's say you want to focus on, we've mentioned several causes today, but let's say literacy. You can invigorate your club and just focus on that. So I want to spend just a little bit of time talking about these Rotary Club models, because I feel like you can get something out of it for your current clubs that you're going to be president of next year. And for the clubs you're going to have your DG start next year, or that you're going to start either while you're president or after president. Passport Club is the most frequently started club from a district that hasn't had a new club in a while. So if we have a district that hasn't started a club in 10 years, I usually suggest a Passport Club, because what you do is you actually you can attend the Passport Club meetings, but you also get credit for attending other meetings. And one thing you should know as a president-elect is when you have your club meetings, you don't have to have 4 business meetings. Actually, you don't even have to have 4 meetings. Rotary only requires 2 meetings a month. For your 3rd and 4th meeting, what you can do is you could have a social, you could do a service project. You know, my club does Rotary in the Workplace, where we actually take the club to a nearby business that's run by one of our Rotarian members. You know, we have a lady who owns an airport. So we took them to the airport. We flew them around the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, which is where we live. So you can do that. But make sure you bring coffee and bagels or something if it's a breakfast club, or some kind of sandwich at lunch. But these clubs are easy to start because you can mine the databases of all the people in your town in Middle England that you want to bring back to Rotary. Because when we ask people why they left Rotary, a lot of times it was just because they couldn't make the time of the meetings. And or it could be that they had a job or they had children then, but now it's been a few years that their children are off at university, or they changed jobs and now they have more flexibility. Or if you're an airline pilot, or something like that. So it works very well because of the flexibility. Now, again, you could take those items of flexibility, you can incorporate them into your own club. Just be very respectful when you're making those changes. Find the spark plugs in your own club when you're president. You know who they are, the influencers in your club. And see if you can get them on board to make a change. But the people who are going to fear change, make sure that you give them something to do and let them know that they're still going to be needed. Because we got to care about our people, because we got to make sure they stay around. Corporate clubs are growing. And you know, Bentley Motor Corporation, which is in your country, is thinking about starting a corporate club. These are great because it's people from a corporation. Let's say maybe you're in HR, or maybe you're in, well, really not HR. The marketing HR people always have friends, right? it's the lawyers, the barristers like me, or the accountants. No disrespect. They might have a hard time meeting people that work with them because they're working so hard at their job and their job doesn't cross lines a whole lot. So in a corporate club, you can meet people from other departments. So it's very helpful. Usually these clubs don't meet before work or after work, because let's face it, nobody wants to go to work early. Nobody wants to stay at work late. So they're really good clubs for lunches. The great thing about these clubs is when you have service projects, usually a lot more people from the corporation beyond the members of just the corporate club come to help with those. But you got to be careful when you have these clubs, that sometimes if it's a financial institution or something like that, they may not allow you to have meetings at the office outside of office hours. In Pennsylvania, which is not a state I live in, but they are starting a corporate club with Toll Brothers. That's a national home builder here in the US. Cause-based clubs, these are my all-time favorite clubs. I'm sure I shouldn't have a favorite club. Like my wife says, I shouldn't have a favorite exchange student, but let's be honest, we have them. And the reason I'm so excited about cause-based clubs, I'm sorry I'm so into this, and I'm sorry if I'm laughing and telling jokes. I'm just so excited to be here with all of you today. It's a very serious topic, but we can have fun with it. Why are cause-based clubs my favorite? Because if you have a cause, there's no more motivational force in the world than a cause. When you get similarly situated people together to work on a cause, we don't lose them. Remember I was saying that we lose most of our Rotarians in the first 2 to 3 years? If we can get them in a cause-based club, they're usually there for that cause. So they stay there for a while to work on that cause with similarly minded people. And then after they've been there for 3 years, then they have the lifelong friendships that all of us have. And that's why we're here on a Saturday going to pets, right? So how's a cause-based club different? They usually have a speaker from their cause. Remember we talked about the End Human Trafficking Club? Their speakers are typically people who are in the business of ending human trafficking. Now that particular club, there are about 65 members, but a lot of their members are executive directors of other organizations that work to end human trafficking. So a lot of time their speakers are talking about what they do. They have a woman surgeon there who removes, and I didn't even know this until I went to one of their meetings, A lot of times when people are human trafficked, they have barcodes in the back of their neck that are tattoos. I know it's just awful, and I hate to bring it up, but she can talk about that. Well, somebody else might be involved in, ending sex trafficking as opposed to human trafficking, which would be also workers that are used. So they focus, most of their meetings are on that, and their projects are mostly on that. So what can Rotary do for them? They can get them the money they do for district grants. And we have 1.4 million people around the world. We include Rotaractors in our number now. That's why it's 1.4 instead of 1.2. But you can consider taking a cause and weaving it into your current club if you want to add members, because a cause really attracts people. And when you start those clubs, you can bring different organizations together that you can, as Rotary Club, can be an umbrella organization to bring those all together. Alumni-based clubs are great. And why are they great? Because there's people all around the world, and we've run into them, right? People at markets and things like that who were wearing our Rotary shirt, and they say, "Oh, you're a Rotarian." Then we say, "Are you a Rotarian?" "No, but I had an exchange where I went to somewhere other than England for a year, and I came back and my life changed for the better." There are so many people around the world, Peace Fellows. There are people around the world that have life-changing experiences because of Rotary. But we have a hard time remembering that as recruiters. So if there's some way that you can, tap into the people who've experienced Rotary. If any of you have done youth exchange in your clubs, the year you're president, find out who the host families were. Maybe they had children and couldn't join Rotary, and they were great for hosting, but they didn't join themselves because they were busy with their children. Their children could have gone off to university now. Reach out to them. Get a list of youth exchange students who are now Rotex or adults working. We started a Rotary Community Corps, which you don't do a lot in England. We don't do a lot in North America. But we just started one in our community. Back in the 80s, we had about 20,000 people move from Somalia into Minnesota, the state I live in, which is near the north, kind of right below the Canada border in the middle. And we get lots of snow. It's really cold. I'm not sure why people move there, but they do. So we started, we're getting refugees from Afghanistan now. So we started a Rotary Community Corps. Every 2 weeks we meet at a local community center. We have 60, 70 people there on average. Half are Afghans, half are Rotarians. We might do pizza one week when it's the time for the Rotarians to bring the food. The next week we'll have a traditional Afghani meal with, rice and chicken and things like that. The reason I bring this up is because you can do something like that in your club, and you can engage your members with the service. I mean, we do things like, they came to us and said, "We cannot get jobs because we don't speak your language, and the driver's license manual that you need to take the test to drive a motor vehicle here isn't in Pashtun and Dari." So we had a member of my club, and Google Translate doesn't translate into those languages. So a friend of mine who's in our club works for a hedge fund, and their financial institution actually had different software that translated. We translated the driver's manual. It wasn't copyrighted, so we were allowed to do it. We checked with the state. We took it in those languages, and at the last meeting we had just a few weeks ago, 5 people have now passed the driver's license because we did that. And now they're making money. They have jobs. Some of them, we're still working on getting jobs for others. And Rotarians are getting them jobs too. That's part of what we do. But why do we do that? Because you want to grow your clubs. And you can not only grow the clubs, eventually these Afghanis will probably join some of the clubs, but right now it's keeping our current members engaged. And so that's what you need to do when you're a president. Interest-based club, these are cool. It's kind of like a cause-based club, but it's around an interest or a hobby. Some people want to meet after hours to get a drink. That could be the 501 club because they meet after 5 o'clock. You could have an exercise club. You could have a cooking club, all that kind of thing. I have a friend in Australia who started about 8 months ago a club for koala, and it's going well. You know, here in the Midwest where I live in North America, they have some clubs that are satellite e-clubs, but they do past pollinators, which are beekeepers. International clubs, these are basically around a certain community. In Chicago, which is kind of close to where I live, they have 2 Spanish-speaking clubs, but it's a way for people to serve their community, but still keep a sense of their own identity. And you know, it's funny, when you start a Rotary Club, it's really important to put the needs of that new club in front of Rotaries. You know, it's funny because when I say we started a Veterans Club, people say, well, I'm going to go start a teachers club. And that's fine. And sometimes that works, but you really have to focus on what the service is. The Veterans Club is not exclusive when it comes to membership. Anyone's allowed. RI requires you to open up your doors to anyone. It's just exclusive in the service it does. These people want to serve veterans. So we have members, the administrator for that club isn't a veteran, but his son-in-law is an active military person. So he wanted to be in that club to serve people like his son-in-law. So just remember that we're inclusive in membership, just exclusive in the type of service. Because let's face it, if we had a Rotary Club that fit everyone, we wouldn't be at 1.4 million. We'd be at 4 million. We'd be at 10 million. So the idea with these new clubs is to find people who are like us, purpose-driven, people of action, influencers in their community who want to serve. We just don't have a club that fits their needs or their schedules. So I'm always asked, what are the 5 keys to success? It's really not hard. You have to have a passionate champion. I'm sure there's people on here who are thinking, okay, I can start a club. Write down that idea and think about it, and then go out and do it. You know, this is the year, Jennifer Jones, you heard imagination. Imagine that new club and see if we can start it. It usually starts around camaraderie and friendship, because we're always asked, how do we find our members? You know, 85% of people in Rotary were asked to join by somebody else. It's friends, it's people we work with, people that we worship with, people we exercise with, you know, people we meet and want to be a part of our club. But you know, the scary part about the last Rotary survey is 35% of people said they didn't feel comfortable bringing a new member into their club. So you as presidents, if there's going to be a change, it happens with you as presidents. Next year, you'll be in charge. You will have the bully pulpit. You can make change if you want to in a caring way, involving others and communicating it as you go. You know, a few years back, I was at a Pets, and I asked everyone, what's the change you're going to make as president? So I challenge you to think of what changes you're going to make. And one gentleman named Troy, I always remember as Troy the pie guy. I don't remember his last name, but I asked him what change he was going to make. And the only change he said he was going to make was to change the dessert, because he wanted pie there. And I said, okay, whatever you want to do, if that's going to make you and your members happy, make that change. But I ran into him a few years later, and he had made several changes, some of them big changes. But he made the change of the pie first, and he got some positive reinforcement. So if you want to make change as a president in your club, you know, first do the assessment. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Yes, you can go to My Rotary and Google up health check or membership survey. Health check is for the board, membership surveys for the members. You can find out what they want, but if you don't want to make it that complicated, just ask a few questions. Do you like when we meet? Do you like where we meet? Do you like the time we meet? Do you like our soldiers? Do you like our service projects? And you'll find out when we do surveys, there's about 5% of people who feel dissatisfied or very dissatisfied, but when you drill down and ask them why, it's simple. They don't want to come to an early morning meeting, or there's something they don't like that you can change. So as a president, do a survey. And you know, even if you can't make it a change because it's a major fundamental change, they'll feel like they've been listened to. It's part of that caring for them. Also, all these clubs, whether it be your club you're leading next year, a new club, they all have a desire to serve. People don't want to be a part of something that does nothing. So your club, if it's not doing enough local, and I say local because local is the #1 reason local service that when people join, youth service second. I'm speaking fast because I don't want to run out of time, and it's important for me to answer your questions. They started with friends. Everyone says, where do I find my members? Start with your friends. I was once conducting an interactive virtual seminar like this. And a young lady said, well, I just moved to town. I don't have any friends. I said, you don't have any friends? And she said, well, I have my mom. I said, bring your mom. That's 2 members right there. We were talking about alumni clubs. There was a woman in my club named Paula, one of my best friends. We went to Honduras together to work on a WASH project, a water sanitation hygiene project. She recently moved from Minnesota, which is upper United States, way down to the south of Florida, which is about as south as you can get in the United States without hitting the ocean. She joined her Rotary Club there, and they were only doing local service. They weren't doing international. Paula was all about international. I said, Paula, you need to join your own club, form your own club. She said, where do I find my members? She goes, I said, your friends. And I said, Paula, you have friends, right? Well, she had friends from all over the world because she went on all these international service trips. I helped by bringing some of my contemporaries where I live who weren't in Rotary, but they were youth exchange host families, and they can do a virtual club meeting. Great club. It was just in the Rotary magazine, not in Great Britain and Ireland, but here in North America in this month's magazine. And when you start a club or when you're in your current club, you have to nurture. Clubs who nurture their members are 45% more likely to grow and succeed. So I'm also asked, what kind of clubs are popping up? Well, around the world, we have different kinds of clubs popping up. We have environmental clubs. There's about 15 of those. Veterans Club, we have a half a dozen here. There's one starting in Australia right now. Ending human trafficking, again, those are very popular clubs. And that's what's so great about this. When you're done with your as president or this coming up here, you start a club, that spark might get a whole bunch of other clubs starting. I never thought when I started the Veterans Club with help of my friends that we'd have them all around the world. Same with human trafficking. Ending homelessness. Again, Australia has 2 clubs working on that. The disabilities, we talked about the club with autism. And you learn when you start these clubs. I would have never thought that starting an autism club, somebody who's far along on the spectrum would want to be an officer or president. We have someone who's on the scale pretty severely. He's president, and he's doing a great job as president. But long story short, anywhere that you can serve, you can start a club around, or you can bring that need in and invigorate your current club. So what I'd like you to think about is just think about, maybe you can start a club around a focus area. Maybe you can start an alumni club. Maybe you could reach out to people who haven't been in Rotary in a while and ask them to come back. So think about that. Now is the favorite time for me, and that's to answer your questions. I just love answering questions because I want you to leave with the knowledge that you came here to seek. So I am here, and Chris is going to funnel questions to me, and I'm going to answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. I've got sheets of paper in front of me of asking questions, so I hardly know where to start. It was really inspiring. Thank you very much indeed. The first question I'd like to start with, which was, I think you did answer further down, but we're all excited about the idea of forming new and innovative clubs. And Amil Ramel was actually asking, do we really have to wait for the 20 people in order to charter?
Yes and no. And thank you so much for asking this question. In 30 minutes, you can't get everything in. That's why I love, and maybe next year we just answer questions the whole time. You can start a satellite club with just 8 people. You can start a Rotaract club with 12. You can start a subgroup of your current club with less, and maybe they grow into their own club, maybe they stay. But the important thing, just take this into perspective. If you go back to say, let's say 1996, we've been at 1.2 million for the last 25 years, because in places like North America, and respectfully, Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland, we bring people in, it's a revolving door, and we lose people. Usually in the first, we lose 10% in the first year. We lose more than 50%, 52% by the first 3 years. But in that same time period that we've been at 1.2, it's 1.4 if we include Rotaractors, and we do now, During that same time period, the average club size has gone from roughly 60 to 30. So why have we stayed at 1.2 or 1.4 over 25 years? It's because we added new clubs. And it's hard to get technical when you're only speaking for 30 minutes. But just to give you a flavor, if we don't have new clubs, we're in trouble. That doesn't mean that we can't reimagine and you as presidents can't grow your club. I made it my #1 goal when I was president to grow that club. And we added 31 members that year. How did I do that? If you're interested, and I think as presidents you might be, I just made it a priority. Every time, if Chris would bring in a member, I congratulate not only the new member, I congratulate Chris. I would make a foam core board with the new member, potential new member's face on it. And then I would take them home and thinking, wow, I'm wasting foam core boards. Until like the third time I did that, someone said, can I have that? I want to mail it to my mom. I said, absolutely. But you know, there's certain things you can do. When you have your board meeting, you know, how do we start most board meetings when you're a president? I mean, here in the US, what we do is we approve the minutes, we go over the finances, we talk about our next, we never get to membership because we only have an hour. Start with membership. You know, you might have a list of 5 or 6 people. You're president, you don't have time to take them all out to lunch, divvy them out. You know, if there's a retired female, you can pick up a retired female, the fired female. If there's a young person, you can have a younger person. Don't be too concerned that your club isn't ready to accept a young person. You think you might use them, lose them because there's not other younger people. Bring in 2 or 3 together, you know? Go back to the spouses of your current Rotarians. Ask them to join. You know, there was a video we did a few years ago in One Rotary Summit. That's something we do regionally. It's a membership, public image, and foundation all working together. And it's called Red Cars. You know, when you go out and you buy a red car, it seems like every car around you is red. We have to start thinking of membership like that. And, you know, I love what Shaker did with Each One Bring One. You know, some people said, oh, that's an unrealistic goal. You know, it'll never happen. But you know what? Watching Facebook, like within a month, a club in India already did that. But what it does, it takes the idea of membership and it turns it on its head. Because all of our clubs, you know, here in North America, we have a membership, you know, they call them committee. Don't use the word committee, use the word team. Nobody wants to be on a committee. Everybody wants to be part of a team. Your membership team should have more than one person on it. And you know what? We should all be on the membership team. And that's what I like about Shaker's Each One Bring One, because it puts the responsibility on all of us. We love our clubs, but if we want them to stay around, you know, even after we're gone, we have to bring in more people and we have to reflect our community. I'm sorry, that was a long answer. Thank you for the question.
I will very quickly move on to the next one then. One of the questions that we've had, and in fact several of them are similar, is that we want to start new clubs, but there is a generation gap. And one of the things that you said was that we needed to bring the whole club with us. Look for the people who are flexible and will change, but bring the whole club with you. Have you got any hints about how we could do that? Because that's a very real problem for us here.
So whether you're making a change as a current president-elect about to be president, or whether you're starting a new club, it's really hard to do it on your own. And when you start a club, it's easy to get the first 10 or 12, but it's really hard. And that's why I appreciate that question about the 20. It's really hard to get to the 12 to the 20. But once you get to the 20, you know, that club I told you just got approved a couple nights ago, we had a hard time getting the last 2. But as soon as we got 20, the next 10 or so came in easily because they wanted to be fully baked before they start. Now, when you're making a change in your club as a president, what you do is first you do the survey. You assess what needs to be done. Then you create a vision. And that vision is, if you want more younger members, you want more female members, get that vision. Then you get a few spark plugs to actually plan it. And then if you're about to implement it, feel you're going to be president. It's going to be the best year in your Rotary career up to that point, because you're connected with your people. They're going to call you when they get a job, or more importantly, when their kids get a job, when they're having babies, when they're having grandbabies, even when they're going on vacation, you're going to be connected with them. You'll know. And, if you don't want to if you're a smaller club, if you're 450 people, it's good to do a written survey because it's hard to talk to many people. But if you have, 12 or 13, you want to take them out to a pub, you want to call them up, find out what they want. If you want to make that change, build it, show it, get some buy-in, and then the people who are negative, take care of them. Not that you can't get it done without them, but just do it. But the other thing is, when you make that change and successful, keep on doing that. Rotary says do a survey once a year. When do we do the survey? Most clubs don't do any survey, to be honest with you. And I'm sorry I'm spending some time on this, but this is important. Don't wait. Don't just do an exit survey, because the most frequently answer to that question, do you do a survey, is no. When we say, the clubs that do, we say when. They say when we're leaving. Rotarians are nice people. They might not be honest with you when they leave for the real reason, but even if they are, you can't make a change as a president at that point. If you want to be a successful year president, do that survey. Why? Because they're going to feel like they've been heard. But after you get that change made, do another survey. Do once a quarter. There's a governor in a city we have here in New York that he'd go around and say, how am I doing? How am I doing? How am I doing? Which sounds kind of colloquial, but you know what? People want to give their feedback. And some of the changes aren't hard to make. So make the changes. Don't be afraid of it. In my culture, it's hard because we have presidents who are a club where their gala has been doing every year and they're losing money and eventually it's going to go out of business. Same with the golf tournaments. Well, you know what? Be the president who's going to make that change. Don't be afraid. Oh, I don't want to be the president. It doesn't raise the money this year. You'll change your club and they'll remember you forever. So, thank you.
Thank you. That's lovely. Another question has been very much about the clubs that you were talking about that are going to be flexible and able to be e-clubs perhaps, and to actually think about, and you had a whole slide of different types of clubs that we could have. Lots of questions about that. And you said that the cause-based club was very much your favorite, but can you just get that enthusiasm that you have on the into our whole group here, because it's so infectious. Thank you.
You can do it. And who's the person to do it? It's the presidents. I mean, let's face it, there have been years, and you've seen it in your clubs, years where you do well and years where you don't do well. And let's face it, it's up to the people at Mid-England Pets to make that change. If you are enthusiastic, people will follow. I mean, and this might not be your style, but it worked for me. It used to be the presidential citation, you couldn't set your goals. They would be set for you. President Holger changed that, and Jennifer, RI President-elect Jennifer, when you know these people for years, you want to call them Jen, you want to call them Holger, but we have to be respectful. They let you set your own goals as a president. So you can set your goals. When you set your goal, what I did is I just blew it up. I was big into foam core boards. I like bringing, the Rotary magazine a couple years ago, unfortunately did a magazine with me where they did a character of me wearing a turkey suit, because I so much in that year of president wanted to get members. Some of my friends said, well, unless you do something special, we won't do it. I said, I'll wear a turkey suit on Thanksgiving if you come. So I think I had 6 friends come that day to a Rotary club. And let me tell you, you have to be persistent when you're, I tried to join Rotary in 1996. I was a district attorney in the club that I lived in Georgia then. They wouldn't let me join because they had one law enforcement classification that was taken by my boss. She had that job. So for 13 years, I didn't join Rotary because I felt rejected. So when I moved to Minnesota, south, all the way up north, the friend who I work out with 3 times a week said, Tom, you got to come to a Rotary meeting. He asked me seriously like 24 times. I kept saying no because I felt rejected, right? Well, I went to the first meeting, I was hooked. And then I knew more people in town. I just loved it. So why do I tell that story, especially to president-elects? Because don't give up. Keep on trying. And if you have to wear a turkey suit, wear a turkey suit. We had 3 of those 6 members join. It wasn't because I wore a turkey suit, but I got them there.
Yeah.
So just make it a priority. Think about it. Invite people. You just have to ask somebody to join. I have a neighbor across the street. His name is Bob Dylan. It's not the Bob Dylan who's the singer, but his name is Bob Dylan. I asked Bob to join. He couldn't join because he travels all the time. But, we were closer ever since then because I asked him. People are honored if you say, I'm in a club. I want you to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. Don't be ashamed of your club. If your club needs to be changed, you can make it. You can help it change. Who? You, the president-elects. You are the change makers. Now bring your president nominee on with you. Bring those other influencers because you're going to have to sell this, right, to make it done. Nobody could push that rope by themselves, but together pulling it, you can get it done. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Tom. In the chat, we've had lots of people coming in, and we've got Eve Conway with us, who is our director-elect. Thank you, Eve. Eve has actually even put in the links to the Maidenhead Bridge and to the Bentley. And in fact, we had Lisa from Maidenhead Bridge speaking at the Southwest and Southwest Wales multi-district pets, and that is available now on YouTube, and it's an absolutely super one. I'm sure too, Tom, you'd quite like to see that too. Their time has absolutely run out on us, although I've been given an extra 5 minutes. I've got one question, which was from Colin Scott. Does Rotary have plans for a direct membership model? I can answer that one. Yes, it does, and I'll be happy to talk to you about it, Colin. But Tom, thank you so much. It's been an absolute delight to have you here, and I'm sure when people get this also on the YouTube, thanks to our lovely IT staff, everybody will want to look at it again because you are just so enthusiastic. It is catching. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tom. That's brilliant. And as was said, inspiring and valuable, leading into our next discussion group breakout, which is about engaging our club members. And it just happened to be the second in the sequence of recruit, engage and new clubs. So we're going to go into that in a few moments. So thank you once again for joining us, Tom. We are your second meeting of the day, I think, already. I don't know whether you've got any more lined up, but have a good one. You've got the rest of the day ahead of you. Thanks very much indeed. Okay, so we're going to drop into our breakouts now for the final part of the afternoon, and it's going to be a slightly shortened breakout because we really wanted to give Tom some extra time there. So we still plan to finish bang on time, but into the breakouts for engaging your club members. So tech team, hit the button. Really good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for that. We've seen 2 sessions covered, and Tom Gump, of course, who was really, really good value. You can't fault Tom's enthusiasm, and I think that goes with the success he's had as well in terms of new clubs and bringing members on board. It always makes it sound so easy, doesn't it? You know, bring one, you know, along yourself, which was Shaker's advertisement, if you like. We've had RI presidents in the past say everyone should get their partner involved and come along, and we can double our numbers. Well, it's not all as easy as that, and I think we've just had a really, really good conversation in the group I was with about engaging our club members and our partners and local groups and everyone else, and it's not simple. However, having said that, take from sorry, Tom, I accidentally did it again then, wanted to call him Forrest Gump instead of Tom Gump. But take the message from Tom that we really need to be talking about having that club survey, listening to the current membership and moving forward, because there's some great things that can be done. Okay, well, we reached the end of session 2. We've covered a lot. Tomorrow afternoon is going to be a very special session, because with the final discussion topic, we also then have our President-elect Jennifer Jones joining us live. I believe she's in Spain at the moment, so it won't be a very early morning session for her. But we've got that tomorrow afternoon. What happens tonight? The clocks go forward an hour. So by 1:30 tomorrow afternoon, you should have recovered that hour perhaps. But anyway, do take note of that. And we shall see you all tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 start. Join us again at 1:15 for the videos and to get everyone on board early. So look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thanks for your participation and attendance today, and have a great evening and a good Sunday morning, even if you get an extra hour or 1 hour less rather sleep.